Manava Kunjabihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Prajajanarajana Yashoda Nandana Prajajanarajana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Padapamsa Vijakacharya Shodasari Srimad, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Charya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Shripada Paramsa Vijakacharya Shodasata Sri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Pramanande Hari Hari Bol. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 1, titled The Supreme Lord is Equal to Everyone, text number 9. Jyotiradi Sangatan Navivichyate Vedanti Atmanam Atmastam Matitva Kavayo Natata Jyotiradi Sangatana Vivichyate Vedanti Atmanam Atmastam Matitva kavayo natata
Tidva Kavayo Tata
yotiradiriva bhati
Yotiradiva Vati
sangatatana vivichyate
Shate
vedantyatmanamatmasam
Yatma
matitva kavayo natata.
Tidva Kavayo
You'll have to repeat, Prabhu.
Yotiradiva Vati
Yotiradiriva bhati
Gatam Navivichyate
sangatana vivichyate
Yatma Sam
vedantyatma matmasam
Tidva Kavayo
matitva kavayo natata yoti fire adri the other elements
Other colors.
eva just as abhati appear sangatata
Purgata,
from the bodies of demigods and others
the bodies of demigods and gods.
na not vivichyate are distinguished Vedanti, perceive. Atmanam, the supersoul.
For soul.
Atmastam,
What's that?
situated in the heart.
In the heart.
Matitva,
God,
are discerning.
by discerning.
Avaya, expert thinkers.
Good thinking.
Antata,
Tata.
within. Translation of purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki. The all-pervading personality of Godhead exists within the heart of every living being, and an expert thinker can perceive how he is present there to a large or small extent. Just as one can understand the supply of fire and wood, the water in a water pot, or the sky within a pot, one can understand whether a living entity is a demon or a demigod by understanding that living entity's devotional performances. A thoughtful man can understand how much a person is favored by the Supreme Lord by seeing his actions. For those who just logged on, we are reading 719. Important. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says, Yad vibhutitmat sadvam srimad virjitam evava tat tad evalva gacchadvam amatejo mishavsambhavam. Know that all beautiful, glorious, and mighty creations spring but from a spark of my splendor. We have the practical experience of seeing that one person is able to do very wonderful things, whereas another cannot do the same things and cannot even do things that require only a little common sense. Therefore, how much a devotee has been favored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead can be tested by the activities the devotee has performed. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord also says, Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam tatami buddhi yogam tam yenamam upayanti te. To those who are constantly devoted and who worship me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. This is very practical. A teacher instructs the students if the student is capable of taking more and more instruction. Otherwise, in spite of being instructed by the teacher, the student cannot make strides in his understanding. This has nothing to do with partiality. When Krishna says, Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam, This indicates that Krishna is prepared to give bhakti yoga to everyone, but one must be capable of receiving it. That is the secret. Thus, when a person exhibits wonderful devotional activities, a thoughtful man understands that Krishna has been more favorable to this devotee. This is not difficult to understand, but envious persons do not accept that Krishna has bestowed his favor upon a particular devotee in accordance with his advanced position. Such foolish devotees become envious and try to minimize an advanced devotee's activities. This is not Vaishnavism. A Vaishnava should appreciate the service rendered to the Lord by other Vaishnavas. Therefore, a Vaishnava is described in Srimad Bhagavatam as Nirmat Sara. Vaishnavas are never envious of other Vaishnavas or of anyone else, and therefore they are called Nirmat Saram Satam. As Bhagavad Gita informs us, one can understand how one is situated with Sattvagun, Rajagun, or Tamagun. In the example given herein, fire represents the mode of goodness. One can understand the constitution of a container of wood, petrol, or other inflammable by the quantity of the fire. Similarly, water represents Rajagun, the mode of passion. A small skin and the vast Atlantic Ocean both contain water, but by seeing the quantity of water in a container, one can understand the size of the container. The sky represents the mode of ignorance. The sky is present in a small earthen pot and also in outer space. Thus, by proper judgment, one can see who is a devata or demigod and who is an asura, yaksha, or rakshasa, according to the quantities of sattva-gun, rajagun, and tamagun. One cannot judge whether a person is a devata, an asura, or a rakshasa by seeing him, but a sane man can understand this by the activities such a person performs. A general description is given in the Padma Purana. Vishnu Bhakta Smrito Daiva Asuras Tad Viparyaya. A devotee of Vishnu is a demigod, whereas an asura or yaksha is just the opposite. An asura is not a devotee of Lord Vishnu. Instead, for his sense gratification, he is devotee of the demigods, bhutas, pretas, and so on. Thus, one can judge who is a devata, who is a rakshasa, and who is an asura by how they conduct their activities. The word atmanam in this verse means paramatmanam. The paramatma or supersoul is situated in the core of everyone's heart. Antata. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Ishvara sarva bhutanam hirdishe arjuna. Iti. The Ishvara, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, being situated in everyone's heart, gives direction to everyone in terms of one's capabilities in taking the instructions. The instructions of Bhagavad Gita are open to everyone, but some people understand them properly, whereas others understand them so improperly they cannot even believe in the existence of Krishna, although reading Krishna's book. Although the Gita says Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, indicating that Krishna spoke, they cannot understand Krishna. This is due to their misfortune or incapability, which is caused by Rajagun and Tamagun, the modes of passion and ignorance. It is because of these modes that they cannot even understand Krishna, whereas an advanced devotee like Arjuna understands him and glorifies him, saying, Param Brahma, Param Dhamma, Pavitram Paramam Bhavan. You are the supreme Brahman, the supreme abode and purifier. Krishna is open to everyone, but one needs the capability to understand him. By external features, one cannot understand who is favored by Krishna and who is not. According to one's attitude, Krishna becomes one's direct advisor, or Krishna becomes unknown. This is not Krishna's partiality. This is his response to one's ability to understand him, according to one's receptiveness. Whether one be a Devata, Asura, Yaksha, Rakshasa, Krishna's quality is proportionately exhibited. This proportionate exhibition of Krishna's power is misunderstood by less intelligent men to be Krishna's partiality, but actually it is no such thing. Krishna is equal to everyone, and according to one's ability to receive favor of Krishna, one advances in Krishna consciousness. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives a practical example in this connection. In the sky, there are many luminaries. At night, even in darkness, the moon is extremely brilliant and can be directly perceived. The sun is also extremely brilliant. When covered by clouds, however, the luminaries are not directly visible. Similarly, the one more advances in sattva guna, the more his brilliance is exhibited by devotional service. But the more one is covered by rajagun and tamagun, the less visible his brilliance, for he is covered by these qualities. The visibility of one's qualities does not depend on the partiality of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is due to various coverings in different proportions. Thus, one can understand how far he has advanced in terms of sattvagun and how much he is covered by rajagun and tamagun. Om Gina Tiramandasya Jananjana Shvakaya Chakshilitamyana Tasma Shri Guruve Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Sari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Bit of a long purport. There's a lot in here to discuss. So we are continuing with the point that is being made in this chapter. As the title chapter says, that the Supreme Lord is equal to everyone, despite seeming partiality. I discussed last time about how to understand or how to recognize how this does not contradict the seeming disparities in the material conditions of the various living entities. Why one soul is placed into the family of a rich man, while the other is placed into the family of a pauper. And this verse and purport is talking about something a bit different, or another area, one could say, where it seems that the Lord might be partial, and that is in giving knowledge of Him and the opportunity to perform His devotional service. And it's sometimes said by atheistic types of why doesn't God just come and show Himself to me? Uh, According to what they say, they would be very willing to believe if God appeared before them. But this is, one could actually question the assumption that they make about themselves, in that would they think that is actually God appearing before them, or would they think that it is a hallucination? A few months ago, Richard Dawkins, is probably one of the most famous atheists in the world, actually said publicly that if God appeared to him, he would believe it's a hallucination. He would not accept God, even if God appeared directly in front of him. Meaning that there's nothing that you could say to him or anything to convince him that God actually exists. He is staked totally on the supposition of the non-existence of God. So it is not partiality that God is not revealing himself to Richard Dawkins. Richard Dawkins doesn't want to have anything to do with God, and therefore God does not force himself onto him. And this is very obvious in the case of Dr. Dawkins. Uh, but the same can be said for all gradations of this sort of thing. That uh, God does not appear to the atheists because they are not actually searching for him. One time, Prabhupada was asked about the sincere atheists. Do you know what his response was? There's no such thing as a sincere atheist. Because actually, the proof of the existence of God is so common sense and so straightforward that one really is only an atheist for ulterior motives. That one is unwilling to accept the existence of God, and therefore one disbelieves. It is not that one takes a dispassionate sort of view to uh, objectively look at the evidence and then comes to the conclusion that there is no God. Because all the evidence points to the fact that there is a supreme controller, that there is an original person. Uh, so they do not believe in God. And even if God did appear to them, would they recognize, right? If Sam Harris or Richard Dawkins or Alex O'Connor or any of these big atheists, if a dark-skinned cowherd boy playing a flute with a peacock feather in his hair came in the back of one of their talks at some university one day, would they recognize that this is God? I would say no, because they do not have knowledge. Because one cannot actually accept or reject God until one has knowledge of God. But all of this is not partiality on the side of the Lord. The Lord is wanting everybody to have knowledge of Him, but it is up to the living entity how they wish to relate to the Lord. One can relate to the Lord in eternal devotional service, or one can relate to the Lord through his external energy, the material energy, which comes in three flavors, so to speak, or three basic flavors: Tamagun, Rajagun, and Sattvagun, which all mix up to deliver the unlimited variety of experience that we find in the world. And when one is covered by the lower modes of nature, Rajagun and Tamagun, one cannot understand the supreme personality of Godhead. As Prabhupada explains here in the purport, that even though Krishna clearly says in Bhagavad Gita, aham, I, and it says so many times, Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, that people say all sorts of crazy things about the Bhagavad Gita. One very prominent Hindu leader, whatever that word means, uh, has said that it is not to Krishna, but to the unborn within Krishna that we have to surrender. There's so many other concoctions like this. I heard somebody claim the other day, this Indian person, that apparently there's this uh, so-called holy person. that goes by the name Amma, this older lady, who is Krishna and Kali and Shiva all at the same time, because everything is one. But they do not recognize that in Bhagavad Gita, there are so many times the first person appears. The first person, grammatically speaking, right? I am doing this. I say this. Sri Bhagavan Vacha, the Supreme Personality, says, not that something that is within Krishna says. Krishna is the same within and without. He is not like us. We have these nonsense material bodies that are without, but within we are the soul. But Krishna is his body because his body is transcendental. But because they wish to enjoy the world in these very low class ways of Rajagun and Tamagun, they have become demoniac. That uh, saying that Krishna is not actually Krishna. Of course, even in Sattvagun, uh, it is possible to not fully understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Many times, if one is in Sattvagun and doesn't make it to the platform of pure devotional service, one becomes a mixed devotee. That one wants to do devotional service, but also has so many material desires that one wants to fulfill. This is the position of the demigods, that all the demigods are devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but they also have desires for power or wealth or position or whatever. But in the lower modes, generally speaking, one does not take to devotional service. Of course, it is possible also to perform devotional service in the lower modes. We read in the third canto, especially, that in the realm of mixed devotional service, uh, one can perform devotional service in any of the three modes or transcendentally. It is actually described that uh, the three modes mixed with themselves uh, with uh, in order to create nine combinations, which uh, categorize or mix with the nine processes of devotional service, leading to 81 ways to perform bhakti yoga according to the mm, qualities of the performer. But many times, when one is in the mode of passion and ignorance, one does not become a devotee, but instead becomes a demon. This is actually what is meant by the word demon. According to the definition that Prabhupada gives, uh, there are the devotees of the Lord, and whoever is not a devotee is a demon. And it is understood the feelings of a demon from the Bhagavad Gita, this Asurika Bhav, that I have so much today, I'll have much more tomorrow. I have mm, so much wealth or power. My enemies are here today, but I will defeat them tomorrow. And so much more orientation towards nothing but simple sense gratification. Uh, Sorry, there's this fly that is messing with my sense gratification. Uh, yes. So one can understand that the more one is in Rajagun and Tamagun, that the more one is uh, overtaken by this mentality. And if one looks at the general society that is surrounding us, that most of us were born into, then we can understand that it is totally overcome by the modes of passion and ignorance. And so totally demoniac. And is getting worse uh, day by day. There used to be a time, for example, this example came to mind, long before I was born, that at least in certain places in the world, no one could just leave one's door unlocked all day. There's nobody in the house. And be confident that nobody would come in and try to steal your stuff. And then television came and stoked everybody's envy. And then people had to put locks on their doors. And in so many other ways, that the entire thrust is about enjoying the senses, that uh, everything is made in order to uh, give us, uh, or to attempt to give us, or at the very least to make us want the objects of the senses, which leads to more and more issues, uh, more and more disaster, really. As we read in Bhagavad Gita, Dayayato Vishayan Pumsa Sangaste Shupajayate. By meditation on the objects of the senses, that one develops attachment for them. And then Sangas Sanjayate Kama, that from that attachment develops lust. And then uh, Kamat Krodo Bijayate, that then one develops anger. So of course, it goes on from anger to illusion, samamoha. It isn't just illusion, but complete illusion. And then uh, Smriti, Smriti Vibrama, uh, Virama, rather, that one's memory is bewildered, Buddhi Nasho, destruction of the intelligence, and Pranashyati, one is completely destroyed. All of this is due to the modes of passion and ignorance that push one to contact the objects of the senses, and that the modern society is made to start us to meditate on the objects of the senses. That's what the entire advertising industry is for. And that in an advertisement, one puts very nice things or seemingly nice things in order to fool the people that if they take this thing, they will be happy. For example, there's a commercial for tires or something, and there are all sorts of beautiful people, frolicking around or whatever, with the uh, implication that if you buy these tires, buy Firestone tires, and then you will be able to enjoy with these beautiful men or women according to one's desires. There can't be many things that are less libidinous than car tires. But still, when one starts, the idea is to induce one to meditate on the uh, objects of the senses. So we should understand that the society that is surrounding us is demoniac, and that we are not trying to be demons. Therefore, we should not compromise with the demoniac society that is around us. We should preach the message of Krishna consciousness very strongly. Now, becoming a devotee of Krishna is not about just wearing neck beads and putting on tilak. Of course, the cultural things are important, but the main thing is to preach the message of Krishna consciousness strongly and directly and uncompromisingly. If you compromise with demons, then you become a demon. Uh, so we should not be so concerned with uh, if the general populace finds our message palatable or not. We're in the material world. If the reason people are here is because they find devotional service to Krishna unpalatable. So we have to figure out ways to uncompromisingly convince people to take something they do not want. Uh, of course, we don't unnecessarily alienate people, but still, we should not be so concerned with being accepted by the mm, demoniac society that is around us. Uh, but instead worry about being accepted by the parampara, by the acharyas, by preaching their message directly. And in that way, we will be able to attract the sincere people who want to be rid of this demoniac society. Because there are actually many people, or at least a good portion, that understand that our society today is broken. But because they do not have knowledge, they find so many other nonsense ways of trying to uh, fix this nonsense society. Whether it's communism or uh, postmodernism or capitalism or um, patriotism or any of these things. It is because people recognize something is wrong in this society. So it is our job to give them directly the knowledge of pure Krishna consciousness, uh, unadulterated by any compromise with the demoniac society around us. And if we do that, then there's a chance that the entire society can actually be uplifted into, at the very least, sattva, if not pure devotional service, because the effect is cumulative. The more devotees that come, the more people there are to make devotees, and so on and so forth. So it's a chain reaction, like a nuclear bomb going off, a nuclear bomb of Krishna consciousness that is spreading to every town and village. So I will end here. Are there any comments or questions? Boo, do you have anything?
No, I'm curious, Richard Dawkins' statement.
Hmm.
He said, even if God appeared before me, I'll treat her like a hallucinations. He's like, I don't think he read the Gita, but it's pretty much mirroring the other places. It was a dude when Krishna appeared,
Mm,
this the magic trick.
yeah, so yeah, Duryodhana uh, met with Krishna, and I believe that Krishna exhibited a partial universal expansion, like a partial universal form. And Duryodhana's response was, you know, Krishna's just some magician. You know, he learned from somebody how to perform magic tricks. So yeah, if one is not uh, willing to accept even the possibility of God, then what can one do? It's like the analogy that Parvat gave, the kind of the story, the two people arguing about how to cut things. You haven't heard it? So there's two people who are arguing about how to cut like a rope or something. One says the knife, the other says scissors. And the argument is getting very heated. And the knife guy knows that the scissor guy cannot swim. So what he does, because the argument is getting so intense, that he picks up the scissor guy and throws him in the water. And as the scissor guy is drowning, going under the water, he reaches his hand up and goes like this. So even at the time of death, he cannot let go of his insistence that scissors are the way to go. Likewise, these demoniac sort of people, they cannot let go of the insistence. No, they cannot be Christian. They cannot be the supreme enjoyer because I'm the supreme enjoyer. Do you have something?
Yeah, it's very good to um this last point like
Compromise?
compromise, yeah, but also yeah, people sometimes, at least now, like it's a whole bunch of people that are coming to Bhakti, Christian consciousness who are super sincere, but they come from lives where they're like, yeah, where we don't have to compromise in Bhakti, but we have to present it in a way that's appealing to them, or by gender, or identify as different things. They're not really
Yeah.
they're sincere and they want to practice. So Julie's kind of like classify that as like, oh, it's not sort of like the input that it would take to like really process something, give them the knowledge and the way they can understand it. They might not have it take straight.
Yeah. So the question is basically that people are coming to Krishna consciousness with all sorts of conditioning uh, that is against the principles of devotional service. Um, even beyond uh, the standard attractions of meat eating and intoxication. People have these ideas of they identify as this or that or have this sort of sexual attraction or whatnot. So um, how do we approach those cases? And in a um, general sense, we can, for a little bit at least, put off some of the uh, social issues, not ignore them. Um, there's this idea that some people have come up with that, to ignore all of these social instructions that Prabhupada gave, which is a nonsense thing. But uh, it is said by, I believe, Sanatan Goswami that at the beginning, you just explain the basics of Krishna consciousness to them and then introduce the rules and regulations later. So it's not that we have to hit these people over the head with all these things, the first day that they walk in the door. Um, we can start obviously with, the idea Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Srila Prabhupada is pure devotee, he's not materially conditioned. Uh, and, one should perform devotional service to the Supreme Lord. Ideas about parampara, like all of the basics. And then, if they're actually reading Prabhupada's books, they'll get to these statements. I mean, that's really the main thing, is that are they reading Prabhupada's books or not? And, people were talking about, the question was like talking about sincere people who have these issues, who have this conditioning. And of course, we understand if somebody is sincere, if there's a sincere candidate for devotional service, then they will be reading Prabhupada's books. And eventually, they will reach something that, shall we say, rubs them the wrong way, or is controversial according to uh, modern society. And even, if they're reading Bhagavad Gita, which is the first book that we tell a lot of people to read, within, what is it, the second chapter or something, the controversial statements are already starting. So then, we can explain that, yes, these things are also part of Krishna consciousness. And then it's a choice up to them whether they want to continue or not. But it's not that, uh, we have to modify these things to make it palatable for everybody to come. Prabhupada even recognized that if you're having a diamond shop, only a few people will come to take what you're selling. But those few people are, the people who can afford it. So none of these things are disqualifications. But uh, obviously, the mm, words in Srila Prabhupada's books are very much against a lot of these modern ideas. So, uh, if one's reading Prabhupada's books, people have to confront that eventually, and then we can help them through it, but in no circumstances can we compromise. So the person who asked the question went back to the pujari room, I'm guessing to offer Krishna his food. So I don't know if that answer was satisfying or not. Are there any other comments, questions, additions, subtractions, complaints? Yeah, Prabhu.
I was thinking, since spiritual knowledge, the scientific process, they acquire knowledge from completely different means. One's realization, one's observation. It almost seems like, I how can those be reconciled? The only way somebody atheistic could know how God is to practice.
Mhm.
So I'm kind of wondering, is there even a point of argument there, since the means of acquiring knowledge are different, then all they have to do is just try it out.
So the question is the means of knowledge between science and spirituality is different. So how can one go from one to the other? And I am actually going to question the assumption of that question because the means of acquiring knowledge in the scientific way and in the spiritual way are actually non-different. Both rely primarily on Shabda Pramana. In the scientific world, so-called scientific world, uh, the term that I sometimes use is academic science or institutional science. If I'm feeling very, no, I don't know what the right word is. I'm feeling in a certain kind of way. Institutional academic science. This Shabda is done through academic journals, and then also, of course, through teachers. In the spiritual science, it is done through Shastra and gurus and sadhus. But the basic process is the same, that one hears from an authority, and if one wishes to verify, one can undertake the process if possible. If I hear about Ohm's law from my physics 2 teacher, I can go to the lab. And in many universities, you can take a lab course when taking physics, chemistry, biology, these basic sciences. And in physics 2 lab, uh, you study Ohm's law. And if people do the experiment correctly, then one sees voltage equals current time resistance, which is Ohm's law. So one verifies. Likewise, one hears that uh, devotional service to Krishna is satisfying to the person. Then, if you like, you can do the experiment, and then you can see that it's satisfying. As long as you're doing the experiment correctly, right? Just like in the Ohm's law example, when I taught physics lab, I taught physics 2 lab for a couple semesters. And we, of course, students doing it, like first year physics students, or people who are just taking it as like a gen ed course. A lot of times they mess things up. So they don't get a relationship that follows Ohm's law. Of course, also the tables in our lab were magnetizable, which didn't help things. That's going off on a tangent. Uh, but it's not that, because the first year students couldn't uh, derive or couldn't experimentally verify Ohm's law, that Ohm's law is nonsense, right? Likewise, just because the beginning bhakta is not tasting, the full bliss of Krishna Prem, doesn't mean that the process doesn't work. So actually, the epistemological standards, the epistemology of pretty much everything is the same. It's just reliance on who your authority is. Actually, to reject Shabda Praman, practically speaking, you have to be an epistemological nihilist, saying that it's impossible to know anything ever, more or less, right? Which is not a way that you can actually live in the world. So yeah, it all just comes down to who do you trust.
And I guess the only issue is if someone believes that they're material and don't have a soul, and they don't have enough faith to do the practice.
Yeah. If people believe they're material, they don't have the soul. Uh, yeah, then they might not have enough faith to do the practice. But people might just come because they're curious, right? Prabhupada says in the introduction to the Bhagavad Gita that while reading Bhagavad Gita, one should at least theoretically accept that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is Krishna, and that Krishna is God. So he's not even saying you have to totally accept. Just, while you're reading this book, think of it that way, right? Because when I first started reading Bhagavad Gita, I was coming from 5 years as an atheist. I just started because my life was so horrible to think, okay, maybe there's a God. Maybe God is the way out of this. Uh, so when I was reading that, I was thinking like, okay, well, when I read a novel, right, I accept that so many things within the context of the novel are true, right? I suspend my disbelief. Like when I read Harry Potter, I say, okay, within the pages of this book, it's true that dragons and magic and all these things exist. So I was thinking, so I actually have the thought, within this fictional book, I can believe that God exists. And then by the time I was finished reading it, uh, I was chanting Hare Krishna.
Amazing.
So yeah, people don't have to totally believe. One can just become curious. And then the potency of Krishna's words and Prabhupada's words uh, take care of the rest. There's actually, strictly speaking, no difference between Prabhupada's words and Krishna's words, because Prabhupada simply repeats what's in Shastra. And if you simply repeat what is in Shastra, then there's no difference between your words and Krishna's words. It's not that, you know, somebody uh, would be like, oh, if I heard from Krishna on the battlefield, then I would be Krishna conscious. But, it's just these people that are saying these things to me, so that won't work. No. If somebody is repeating exactly what Krishna says, then it's non-different than hearing it from Krishna himself. That is the mysticism of the parampara. That if one uh, simply repeats without adulteration, then hearing from such a person, hearing from Prabhupada, hearing from Bhaktisiddhanta, hearing from Vyasadeva, Narada Muni, any of them, uh, it's non-different. The potency is still there. Uh, the example is given that we should be like a copper wire that carries the current indisturbedly. So we should carry the current of Krishna consciousness throughout the entirety of the parampara into whoever we are talking to. All right. We have 1 minute or less than. So Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Yeah.
It's so good. It's awesome. Really big class. The only thing is this. Yeah, the head noise now.
Jaya Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Shri Radhe. Jaya Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Shri Radhe. Jai Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Shri Radhe. Jai Radha Damodara Radha Shri Radhe. Jaya Lalita Vishaka Lalita Vishaka Shri Radhe. Jaya Lalita Vishaka Lalita Jaya Lalita, Vishaka Lalita, Vishaka Shri Radhe. Jaya Lalita, Vishaka Lalita, Vishaka Shri Radhe. Jaya Nitai, Gora Sundar, Nitai, Gora Sundar, Gora Hari. Jaya Nitai, Gora Sundar, Jaya Nitai Go Sundar Nitai Gora Sundar Gora Hari. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Shri Guru Charana Bhagwan Krishna Rajno Isravadaman Srimad Swami Iti Namiye Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Hare